There's a reality most men only understand after it's cost them everything. A subtle pattern they ignore because society convinces them that noticing it makes them shallow, judgmental, or insecure. That conditioning is dangerous. Her past matters. Not for moral judgment, not for religious rules, but because patterns of behavior from years ago are the clearest signals of future tendencies. If you cannot see the warning signs that separate a woman capable of lasting commitment from one who will destabilize your life, you're walking blind into a trap. I'm going to break down exactly what to watch for, the psychological markers that reveal whether she has the emotional structure for a lasting partnership, or if you're about to gamble your peace, resources, and future on someone fundamentally incapable of giving what you need. This isn't about tallying partners. It's about decoding relational patterns and determining if her blueprint aligns with the life you want to create. By the end, you'll have a practical framework most men only discover after divorce papers are signed. Modern culture wants you to ignore this. Every relationship rewires your brain. This isn't opinion, it's neuroscience, backed by decades of attachment research. Each connection builds neural pathways, sets behavioral patterns, and shapes emotional frameworks that dictate how someone engages in future relationships. If someone has a long history of short, unstable relationships, their brain is conditioned for temporary attachment, emotional detachment during intimacy, preemptive exits at the first sign of trouble, and constant scanning for alternatives. This leads to what psychologists call dismissive avoidant attachment. She becomes skilled at surface-level connection, but struggles with vulnerability, trust, and emotional regulation, the exact qualities a lasting partnership demands. This is not a moral failing. It's a learned system, reinforced over years. Here's the danger for men who realize this too late. You're not just marrying one person. You inherit the psychological architecture of every relationship that came before. And if that architecture is built on instability, it enters your life, promises aside. Think about it like hiring a business partner who's launched and abandoned 20 ventures in a decade. Would you trust them when challenges hit? Of course not. Romantic relationships operate on the same principles. Research is clear. Those with numerous short-term sexual relationships show measurably different outcomes in marriage: higher divorce risk, less satisfaction, greater infidelity likelihood, and difficulty with intimacy or conflict. This isn't judgment, it's evidence. As a man building a life, you must recognize patterns, not ignore them, because acknowledging reality is uncomfortable. Culture trains you to believe it's wrong to examine her past, that unconditional acceptance is expected, that everyone deserves a blank slate. But unconditional acceptance suits children, not adult partnerships where your future is at stake. Most men ask the wrong question. They focus on body count, not patterns. The real question, what does her past relationship history reveal about her ability to sustain commitment? 2 stable relationships lasting 3 years each are psychologically very different from 20 relationships lasting 3 months each. Even if the total time is similar, the first pattern shows capacity for commitment, conflict management, and emotional investment. The second shows serial dating, avoidance of vulnerability, and a track record of exits rather than problem solving. Here are the patterns that predict relational disaster, patterns most men miss because surface attraction or fear of confrontation blinds them. First, no relationship lasting beyond 18 months. If she's over 30 and never sustained a partnership beyond a year and a half, it's not bad luck. Something in her emotional makeup prevents her from sustaining intimacy when vulnerability is required. Fear of closeness, constant comparison, or conflict avoidance are common causes. This ceiling doesn't vanish simply because she says she's ready now. Neural pathways are set. Changing this requires years of real therapy, not just verbal commitment. Second, consecutive relationships with no breaks. If she moves immediately from one partner to the next, never spending time alone, she likely avoids self-reflection.
People who cannot tolerate solitude develop dependency. They rely on external validation and romantic attention to feel stable. That need doesn't disappear in marriage. It becomes constant demands, emotional volatility, and potentially infidelity when attention isn't continuous. Ask directly about time spent single. If she admits she hates being alone or moves straight from one relationship to another, she's using partners for emotional support rather than true partnership. Third, different behavior with past partners than with you. This is one of the trickiest to detect because it requires investigation. She may present a curated performance version with you, while past partners experienced her authentic patterns. If her past includes behaviors she now disclaims or lifestyles contradicting her current values, it's a warning. This gap signals either deep unresolved shame, performance rather than authenticity, or a lack of self-awareness, all predictors of future instability. Fourth, refusal to take responsibility. Listen carefully to how she frames past relationships. If every ex was toxic, abusive, or manipulative, and she accepts no accountability, she lacks the self-reflection necessary for lasting commitment. Psychologically healthy individuals can identify their contributions, articulate lessons learned, and demonstrate growth. Consistently casting herself as the victim shows either catastrophic partner selection or zero self-awareness. Either way, you lose. Fifth, extensive sexual history with minimal emotional connection. Most men react poorly. They either obsess over numbers or dismiss them completely due to societal pressure. The reality is nuanced. A long sexual history within committed relationships differs from numerous casual encounters with no emotional investment. The latter conditions the brain to separate sex from attachment, a neural pattern that doesn't reverse overnight. Oxytocin responses are dulled, behavioral systems are entrenched. Repair requires years of intensive work, not willpower or promises. Most men misunderstand this because culture tells them the past is irrelevant, that caring is insecurity, that love means unconditional acceptance. That narrative protects systems that profit from uninformed decisions. Divorce, legal, and therapeutic industries all benefit when men ignore patterns. Consider this. In business, you check history. In investing, you review past performance. Even adopting a pet involves examining past behavior. Yet in marriage, one of life's most consequential decisions, you're told to ignore predictive data. That's insanity. So how can you assess it? How can you distinguish genuine transformation from temporary performance aimed at securing commitment?
Test 1. Accountability. Observe consistency in multiple conversations about past relationships. Does she own her role and articulate concrete lessons, or does she blame circumstances and ex-partners? Someone who admits, "I avoided intimacy, invested years in therapy to fix it," shows awareness. Someone who says, "All my exes were narcissists," shows neither. Test 2. Verify consistency between past actions and current claims. Sudden dramatic value shifts coinciding with commitment deadlines often indicate performance. Her social circle offers clues. Friends often reflect true lifestyle and values. Test 3. Emotional response to reasonable questions. A healthy person won't react with defensiveness, manipulation, or guilt when asked about history. Extreme reactions reveal inability to handle transparency required for marriage. Test 4. Conflict management. Observe her in varied, stressful situations before committing legally or financially. Emotional withdrawal, vindictiveness, guilt-tripping, or refusal to communicate signals patterns that marriage will magnify, not fix. Understanding this doesn't mean rejecting anyone with a complicated past. It means making informed choices based on evidence, not hope, loneliness, or fear. Some people genuinely transform, but that change has observable indicators: full accountability, consistency over years, evidence of therapeutic work, alignment of lessons learned with current relationship approach. Your choices,
1. Find someone whose history demonstrates real commitment capacity, requires patience, discipline, and high value. 2. Accept someone with concerning patterns while fully acknowledging statistical risks, legal protection, and avoiding delusion. 3. Opt out of traditional marriage and prioritize legacy, freedom, and purpose, a path increasingly chosen by high-value men because modern marriage risk often outweighs the reward. You cannot ignore these patterns and hope love solves everything. Love does not overcome incompatible attachment styles, unresolved trauma, or entrenched behavioral patterns. What I've shared is evidence-based, tested, and rooted in decades of research. If this clarifies patterns you've been struggling to understand, subscribe for ongoing insights culture hides from men. And if you've recognized these patterns early and acted on them, share your experience below. Let's see how common this reality truly is. Remember, discovering these truths now is always less painful than discovering them after everything is legally and emotionally committed.